Brazil and Chile have set new records in their COVID-19 epidemics in the past day. New York, Kentucky and Virginia are holding primary elections this Tuesday. Voters in Malawi defied the coronavirus on Tuesday to head to the polls for the second time in just over a year. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. Brazil and Chile have set new records in their COVID-19 epidemics in the past day. Brazil has now surpassed 50,000 COVID-19 deaths, while Chile reported more than 4,000 new infections in just 24 hours. According to the latest figures, the number of confirmed cases worldwide has now surpassed 9.2 million, while the number of COVID-19 deaths stands at over 476,000. Brazil and the United States have contributed significantly to the rise in the global number of cases, with 183,000 new cases confirmed in the last 24 hours. Chile has already surpassed Italy in terms of the number of people infected at over 250,000 to take 8th place in the world. A 7.5 magnitude earthquake has struck southern and central Mexico. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador quickly posted the latest information on social media.
Estoy hablando con David León de Protección Civil.
I'm talking with David León from Civil Protection. The purpose is to inform the Mexican people from my office. David León tells me that unfortunately one person in Oaxaca has died during the earthquake, in Huatulco, and there is another person that is injured. In the case of the one that passed away, it was due to a collapse. Fortunately, there were no serious damages. There were some collapses, windows were broken, some shelves and canopies fell, but nothing serious. The strategic facilities also did not suffer any damage, such as ports, airports, refineries, hydroelectric facilities. They all are in good shape.
Venezuela is continuing to battle the coronavirus as it borders with Colombia and Brazil. Madeleine Garcia brings us the latest from La Gran Sabana region.
We are at the municipality of Gran Sabana on the border with Brazil, which is now the epicenter of the pandemic in the Americas. This presents a threat to Venezuela due to the inaction of the government of Jair Bolsonaro in facing this pandemic. Venezuela receives daily inflows of its own citizens, and as many as 80% of those who enter could have coronavirus. There has been an impressive logistical approach and methodology created by the government of Venezuela precisely around the border area in order to avoid the spread of the virus within Venezuela. It's a strictly and rigorously adhered to protocol. Upon entry, they detect by holding rapid tests, and it's there that it's determined whether or not they may have the virus. In both cases, be the person negative or positive, they have to spend 17 days in quarantine in the medical attention centers, and they receive care without cost. There are also provisional tent hospitals in the case that a person were to present more serious symptoms. There are currently 2 people here right now who have coronavirus and who have presented symptoms and which are receiving extensive treatment, including the use of breathing tubes, and they are now recovering and they've beat COVID-19. So now we're going to show the testimonies, and we'll be showing the images of how the methodology has been implemented in Venezuela, as today a commission from the United Nations will be accompanying, observing, and exchanging on the protocols being followed with the government of Venezuela.
And also in Venezuela, new lockdown measures have been implemented in order to fight the spread of COVID-19. These are being applied in 10 states, including restrictions on movement, work, and the economy.
Caracas began its week without the metro this Monday. a result of the new arrangements to radicalize the quarantine in the capital and other states. The fourth phase of plan of 7 days of partial economic activity, followed by 7 days of quarantine, has begun. During the week of June 22nd until the 28th, only users who work in the prioritized sectors can circulate in the emulated metro and rail system, telecommunication, health, water, security, energy, food, and transportation. All will need to be properly identified with ID card. Now transport authorities will be running limited metro service so that sectors of workers exempt from the quarantine order can be mobile in the areas of health, food, security, telecommunications, and services.
They've taken good measures, but in recent weeks, things have gotten away a bit, because people been going out in public a lot of and have not taken preventative measures, like the use of face masks, the use of gloves, that leads to people becoming infected.
The preventative measures are taken despite Venezuela presenting some of the lowest levels of contagion in the region. Last week, 24 types of economic establishments or areas were open, between malls, gyms, shoe stores, textile, banks, etc. This week, those economic sectors are called to remain closed. The quarantine is maintained along with prevention measures as countries of the region continue to see a rise in cases.
It would be good to continue, but people need to continue following rules and regulations. There are people who take off their masks or wear it just on their mouths without covering their noses. We don't accomplish anything if there are some who don't follow the rules.
The measures are aimed at stopping the coronavirus spread by taking care of health, but while progressively reactivating the economy.
And we're taking a very short break now, so don't go away. Back to From the South. New York, Kentucky and Virginia are holding primary elections this Tuesday. There are also congressional runoff elections in North Carolina and Mississippi and runoff elections for legislative races in South Carolina. The number of voters casting absentee ballots has risen sharply due to the coronavirus pandemic, and the results of key races may not be known for several days. US top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci told Congress on Tuesday that President Donald Trump never told him or other officials to curb coronavirus testing, thus contradicting the president, who told supporters he had urged such a slowdown.
I, as a member of the task force, and my colleagues on the task force, to my knowledge, I know for sure, but to my knowledge, none of us have ever been told to slow down on testing. That just is a fact. In fact, we will be doing more testing.
A vast cloud of Sahara dust is blanketing the Caribbean as it heads to the United States with a size and concentration that experts say hasn't been seen in half a century. Air quality across most of the region reached record hazardous levels, and people have been warned to stay indoors and use air filters. According to Pablo Mendez, an environmental health specialist at the University of Puerto Rico, this is the most significant event in the past 50 years. Many experts are concerned about the effect on those battling respiratory symptoms linked to the coronavirus pandemic. Mendez, who is working with NASA to develop an alert system for the arrival of Sahara dust, stressed that the concentration was so high in recent days that it could even have adverse effects on healthy people. Haitian President Jovenel Moïse ordered a financial and legal investigation into the tenders between the state and oil companies after an alleged artificial shortage of oil in recent weeks. The president said that companies that import oil products were able to improperly pocket $1.7 billion since March 2010. The inquiry will be conducted by the Central Financial Intelligence Unit, the Anti-Corruption Unit and the General Finance Inspectorate within 30 days. Trade unions in Haiti have called a two-day general strike due to the country's economic crisis. Our correspondent Daisy Toussaint has the details.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Un gusto saludarte. Así es.
Hello, nice to greet you.
In Haiti, this Tuesday, unions and social organizations continue in general strike of activities in protest to the increase of the economic inequalities and also protest to the decrease of the purchasing power of citizens as a method of subsistence, the living conditions of the most vulnerable, the unemployment, the insecurity, and the corruption. The organizations question the decision of the Haitian government in the face of the health crisis caused by COVID-19, which has registered more than 5,200 confirmed cases in the country, 88 of which have died, according to the latest report of the public health system and the population of Haiti. Last week, the trade unions criticized that while the country is immersed in a health crisis, the purchasing power of the citizens is decreasing with the fall of the value of the gourd, Haitian currency, with respect to the US dollar and the increase in price. Union leader Olive Jean-Pierre said the population has been left alone while the administration does nothing to alleviate their misery. He also said that the strike also supports the petition for the end of the mandate of President Jovenel Moïse, driven by opposition sectors. Let's remember that Haiti is living a political instability that was increased in the strong government demonstrations at the end of 2019 and that kept the country paralyzed for 2 consecutive months. Now, in the middle of the pandemic, a group of police officers also went to the streets to protest with violent demonstrations to demand improvements in salaries and equipment to face the COVID-19 pandemic, a group that the government catalogs as terrorists for having attacked government offices during the protests. For the moment, this is all the information. I return with you to the studio.
In Barbados, a 25-year-old photojournalist was killed on Monday while reporting on a murder. Christophe Griffith, an employee of The Nation newspaper, was reporting on the death of 51-year-old Glenroy James, who'd been cleaning the former residence of the Anglican bishop. James was attacked by a homeless man who reportedly slept in the abandoned building. The photographer responded to the report of a body being found at the site, but was unaware that the suspect was still there. Guyana's Court of Appeal has issued an order that the words "more votes are cast" per Article 1772B of the Constitution be interpreted to mean more valid votes are cast. The ruling means a presidential candidate shall be deemed to have been elected and shall be so declared by the chairman of the Elections Commission if more valid votes are cast in favour of the list in which he is the designated candidate. But the order appears redundant as the Elections Commission has already decided the valid votes. Citizen Elsin David filed the motion challenging the Commission to declare the validity of the March 2nd polls before announcing the results. It is likely that an application will be made to the Caribbean Court of Justice for the decision to be appealed. Cuban cartoonist Aristides Hernandez, known as Aris, won the grand prize in the 2020 Anti-Coronavirus International Cartoon Competition in China with a work produced in tribute to doctors fighting against the pandemic. Our correspondent in Havana, Naya Hurtado, brings us the details in the following report.
In his studio in Central Havana, Cuban artist Aristides Hernandez, known as Ares, could not remain indifferent to COVID-19 pandemic. On a daily basis, he reflected in his cartoons that was happening. One of those creations won the Grand Prix in the AYAC 2020 anti-coronavirus event based in China, a work that also reminds him of the doctor within.
And the case of doctors, the people who have been dealing with the pandemic, shows that society have to turn their attention to more important things. They have been selling us everything we do not need, and it has been demonstrated that there are things that people in the world need which are not guaranteed, such as health care.
The artist reflected the worldwide recognition of health workers in a different way.
And I try to express it from the point of view of religions in the world. The iconic images of religions in the world are those in which people express their devotion, and I try to reflect that in this image in which it is those figures that are paying tribute to doctors, and in the manner that became common during the pandemic, which is people who are standing apart carrying posters and creating a common poster, which in this case was a poster of gratitude to health professionals, and at the same time saying that it is in them that we believe.
The work is part of more than 40 cartoons that illustrated the evoking title, The World After the Coronavirus, a text that he put together with a Cuban journalist residing in Spain, Felix Lopez. From the distance, taking advantage of the opportunities of social networks, both try to reflect the challenges of countries in post-pandemic scenario.
The book is an opinion piece. What Ares and I have done is reflect the most common opinions of people anywhere in the world, the issues that are overwhelming people as regards their finances, with the 175 million jobs that are being lost worldwide, and are going to bring back the other stationary pandemic that is world hunger.
The text surpassed the virtual limits to form on the basis of art, journalism and psychiatry, an analysis of the social, economic and political consequences of the novel coronavirus.
We are not going to have a better world. In any case, we are going to have a worse world, with greater economic problems, with more racism, with more attacks on people who have less, with more selfishness, and as we have seen, with more tendency for war, to meddle in the affairs of others.
Ares is one of the most awarded and internationally recognized Cuban cartoonists. Today, while he's complying with the lockdown, he draws, reflects, and together with his colleague Felix Lopez, analyzes the world after COVID-19 and applauds doctors from the drawing board. Nayara Tardo, Telesur, Havana.
More stories coming up after this very short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Germany has ordered a new lockdown for the entire district of North Rhine-Westphalia. This is the first of such measures since the easing of coronavirus restrictions began in the country. The move came after a coronavirus outbreak at a slaughterhouse in the town of Reda-Wiedenbrück that has left more than 1,500 workers out of a total of nearly 7,000 infected.
The aim is to calm the situation, to extend the tests to establish whether the virus has spread to the population via Tony's employees.
4 police officers in France have been questioned over the January arrest of a Paris delivery driver who died after they allegedly pinned him to the ground. Cédric Trouviat was stopped by police close to the Eiffel Tower in Paris on January 3rd for a traffic control. However, the situation quickly escalated and video footage shows that he repeatedly shouted, "I'm suffocating," 7 times in 22 seconds as police held him down. The father of 5 died in hospital 2 days after the arrest from asphyxia with a fracture to the larynx. None of the policemen involved have been suspended.
Mr. Macron, you must stop the use of the chokehold because you are a murderer if you allow it to happen. The chokehold is murder. There is no other word for it. And if you, as head of state, keep saying that being forced to lie belly down and the chokehold are needed for an ID check, for a driver's license, for a license plate, then, if you don't mind, you're in the club of murderers too.
Voters in Malawi defied the coronavirus on Tuesday to head to the polls for the second time in just over a year after President Peter Mutharika's re-election was annulled in a dramatic court ruling. The much-anticipated rerun was ordered by the Constitutional Court, which declared there were grave and widespread irregularities in the May 2019 vote, narrowly won by Mutharika. In the last vote, Mutharika, who turns 80 next month, won with 38.5% of the ballots against his main rival, Lazarus Chakwera's 35%. This time round, a candidate will have to secure more than 50% of the vote to be declared the winner.
I think I want to serve Malawians with integrity, and I want to be able to make Malawi a united nation. And I want to be able to make sure that we respect the rule of law and we are able to deal with what has impoverished us, which to some extent is the theft of public funds and the corruption. So I don't know.
South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma returned to court on Tuesday for the latest round in a corruption case that saw lawyers clash over the much-delayed proceedings. Zuma faces 16 charges of fraud, corruption and racketeering relating to the purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats and military equipment. The former president allegedly took bribes of 4 million rand over a $3.4 billion arms deal with a French aerospace and defence company in 1999 when he was deputy president. Zuma was forced to step down in 2018 by the ruling African National Congress after 9 years as president.
We'll peruse the letter.
Syria's ambassador to Lebanon has spoken against the latest US sanctions on Damascus.
Syria is reassessing its situation in order to strengthen its forces and its people in the face of these sanctions, because the blood that was spilled in defense of Syria's sovereignty and its dignity and its right to dignity cannot be neglected, and America realizes this. Therefore, I see it as a hopeless blow rather than behavior that shows awareness and a reading of America's interests. The blockade is a direct and blatant aggression against the dignity of all people of this region, and not just against Syria alone, because the Syrians and the Lebanese and the Palestinians and the Jordanians and the Iraqis, all of them are in the same boat, and America realizes that losses are what awaited more than the possibilities of profiting from this unjust law that violates international sovereignty and international law above all.
Egyptian authorities said on Tuesday they are willing to continue negotiations over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to reach an agreement favourable to all sides. The statement came in response to a claim made by the Ethiopian Foreign Minister that Egypt was attempting to escape negotiations by calling on the United Nations Security Council to intervene. Earlier this week, Ethiopia said it would continue filling the dam's reservoir regardless of the outcome of any talks, prompting Egypt to lodge a formal complaint with the UN. Now we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.
From here to beyond the South.